Hello all, my name is Amlan Samanta. Welcome to my YouTube channel and welcome to another new tutorial on neural network. In my last two videos, I had discussed on the artificial neural network, the basic question normally asked in an interview, what is artificial neural network and what do you mean by deep learning. In this particular tutorial, I have to discuss about the perceptron. You know, perceptron is the basic building block of any artificial neural network. But before framing the answer of this particular question, how to prepare for the answer for this particular question in a professional job interview, let's first, as usual, I will first discuss the concept so that you can efficiently understand that what is perceptron, what is the real usage in our machine learning or deep learning problems, what is the basic application, and why do we require to understand perceptron in a real world circumstance. Then we will try to understand how we can answer this particular question in a real job interview. Okay, so let's start understanding the concept of perceptron. I'll start talking about its history a little bit, and then I will actually discuss the concept of perceptron, and finally the video will be ended with a concrete answer of perceptron. What do you mean by perceptron? So this is the agenda of this particular tutorial. Let's start the discussion. Okay, so perceptron is basically, if you consider the historical background, perceptron is a machine learning algorithm which was invented by scientists McCulloch and Pitt in 1943. So you can understand this is a long historical concept that is still used internally, or you can say under the hood. This concept is used. You can ask me why it is used, because see, if you try to see this particular concept as at a very basic level, this is the building block of any artificial neural network. You know, in my last video, I have already discussed how to understand artificial neural network. So I hope you have watched the video till the end. If you don't watch, please watch the video. Please make that video as a reference for your preparation of your interviews. But if you don't watch, no problem. I will clear that particular concept also for clearing the concept of perceptron. So it was invented by the scientists McCulloch and Pitt. That's why this is also called McCulloch-Pitt network. Okay, so perceptron is also called McCulloch-Pitt algorithm or McCulloch-Pitt network, and it was invented in 1943. Now you can ask me why you are saying this information or why you are sharing this information. So see, every invention, every discovery comes up with some historical perspective, right? So they were working on some classical AI perspective or classical AI problems. At that time, AI was not so much flourished now like nowadays. Nowadays, AI is so much flourished due to huge amount of research, huge amount of inventions, huge amount of works and developments, right? But at that time, in the year of 1940 or 1950, the inventions, the research, the investments on AI projects were very lesser compared to nowadays. Okay. So at that time, these two scientists, McCulloch and Pitt, were working on developing a model which can actually classify something. Suppose some image. Suppose you have captured one image, some color image, and this particular model, I have drawn a picture of perceptron. It's a very basic architecture of a perceptron. So these two scientists in the year of 1943, they are working on some model or some binary classifier model. And using that, they were trying to build a structure that can actually do that classification task. And they were not actually using some very hard or very complex mathematical concept. They are using some linear equation. Based on that linear equation, they actually devised one new algorithm called perceptron. And see how this particular basic algorithm was the cornerstone or the fundamental or became the building block of modern day artificial neural network. Now, so this is the algorithm, or you can say it's a basic unit or building block of any artificial neural network. So to understand the architecture of perceptron, you have to understand or you have to think about biological neuron. Okay, in your class 11 or class 12 you have studied biology, and in biology there is a chapter nervous system. In nervous system there is a called biological neural network, and in biological neural network there are lots of millions of neurons which are connected, interlinked, and they are forming a neural network. Now if you think about the structure of a biological neuron, they consist of three main portions. One is the dendrites. I am recapping those concepts for your easy understanding of perceptron. See, the dendrites or the dendrons are responsible for capturing the signal from real world. That is the first component. And then coming the next component or the second component, the major component where the actual signal processing happens in our human brain, right? That is called cell body or soma. Okay, in soma or the cell body, the signals which are captured by the dendrites or dendrons are actually being processed inside it. After processing of the information or the signal inside the cell body, it is passed on to the next neuron by a third component called axon. So these are the three main components: dendrites, cell body, and axon. So just think about that particular architecture, that random architecture, some star architecture, and then some pipe, and then some nodes, and then again same structure. So in this way the chain is formed and a neural network is formed. Same way, see, just think about or visualize that structure. Suppose these are the dendrites, these are the dendrites, these are the dendrites, and these dendrites are capturing the inputs from the outside world, and after capturing the input there is a weight component. Okay, this W0, W1, dot 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 Wm. What is m? M is the number of input nodes or units. Okay, you can say anything, nodes or units. So you can say like these are all the dendrons. Okay, now dendrons are collecting signal for our human brain, but for actual machine, for a computer system, these are the data collector, collecting the inputs from the outside world, collecting the data from the outside world. After getting the input, it is applied a weights. Okay, these weights are actually applied on the inputs. Okay, after weights are applied on the input, these weighted inputs are summed up in this particular block of the model or the structure. This is called net input function. After that, see, try to follow me very minutely. I am actually explaining the concept of perceptron step by step. First, input data is captured, then it is applying the weights. After applying the weights, we are summing up the weighted inputs. So suppose I am calculating W0 x0. This is first weighted input, then plus W1 x1 plus W2 x2 dot 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 Wm xm. Okay, then you are taking the summation of this all these products. Okay, so this is the functionality of this particular block. After that, it is applying some bias. Okay, I will describe or I will explain on the bias in my next tutorial, but before that, just think about it is a particular constant term which is applied to this particular summation. Okay, so after applying the bias, it is passed by a activation function. Activation function, I haven't made a particular video on activation function, but just for your context, it's a function which actually introduces some non-linearity in your ML algorithm. It actually introduces some non-linear pattern, so that your ML algorithm or ML model can capture some non-linear patterns in your input data. So that is the main purpose of activation function, but basically it's a function which helps your neuron to fire Okay, so fire, when I mention fire, just think about the biological neuron. See, in our 9-10 classes, we studied biology. In that biology, we studied biological neural network, right? And in that, we studied that when a particular neuron is actually capturing a signal, then processing it, and then passing that signal through its axon to its subsequent neuron. But for passing the signal from one neuron to another neuron, there must be some threshold value. Once that threshold is exceeded, then only the signal will be passed to the next neuron. That is the main concept, right? Because see, every action, suppose this is the one neuron, okay? And I am telling another neuron is connected. So this is the end point of action, and here the starting point of dendron, okay? It is the starting point of another new neuron, the first neuron, second neuron, okay? Now when the signal is coming here at the end of the axon, it actually compares with some threshold. Based on the threshold, this particular area, okay, I just forgot, maybe it's called sinusoidal node, okay, or some term is there, some biological term, I forgot that. Based on some threshold, that signal is actually decides that whether it should be passed to the next neuron or not. In this way, actually, our human brain works. Our human brain perceives some information from the real world. Similarly, the scientists actually were working on the same kind of concept. This activation function is actually doing the same kind of operation. It actually fires the perceptron based on some threshold, and then the output is generated, okay? Based on some threshold value, it actually fires the perceptron and then it generates the output, okay? And this is the equation, Wm(xm) plus beta equal to 0, okay? So this is the main crux of concept of perceptron. You can say it's a model or a building block of artificial neural network, or you can say it's a supervised machine learning algorithm for doing binary classification job. Why binary classification? Because it can classify at most 2 classes. It can label 2 classes, whether it is a particular label A or whether it is not A. This kind of classification job it can handle, okay? Now coming back to the final task of this particular tutorial, how to answer a question, what do you mean by perceptron? So how you can answer the question like this in a proper concise manner. So you can say like this, just follow my answer, or you can just pause the video and think about how I am answering the question, and then you can repeat and then you can change your answer accordingly. So you can say like this, perceptron is the building block or the unit of artificial neural network. It actually uses a supervised machine learning algorithm for doing a job of binary classification by learning and capturing the data from the training dataset one at a time. It resembles the structure of biological neuron in terms of the inputs, the processing of the inputs and generation of the output. While in biological neuron, it have the components of dendron, axon and dendron, cell body and axon. Similarly, in perceptron, it have the similar structure where inputs are collected from the outside, then it is applying some transformations and functions on the input and generates the output from the transformed or functions based on some activation function. So in this way you can tell what is perceptron, and definitely if you are aware of the history of perceptron, you are actually acknowledging the invention of perceptron, who had invented this beautiful architecture. Based on this particular architecture, the modern day neural networks are still actually remembering this architecture, and there are lots of sophisticated neural network, you can say like GANs, RNNs, LSTMs. All these neural networks are actually under the hood, they are actually using perceptron, because this is the only building block of any artificial neural network. So that's all about this particular tutorial. In short, I had covered the concept of perceptron, how it actually works, how it processes the information, and how it resembles to a human brain neural network, or I can say the neuron of human nervous system, or any nervous system, the neurons which are actually the building block of any neural network. Similarly, these neurons, artificial neurons, are actually the building block of artificial neural network. And finally, I discussed how to answer this question, like what do you mean by perceptron, and also I had shared some information on the history of this particular invention, which was actually invented by two scientists called McCulloch and Pitt in the year 1943. Thanks for watching. Please like this video if you like this. Without your support, without your likes, it is very hard to get inspiration to create new content, to create new tutorial. And please share this video with your friends if somebody needs this kind of videos for their preparation of interviews. And also please subscribe my channel. And in my next video, I have planned to discuss about some variations of perceptron. There are two variants of perceptron. I have planned to discuss of the concepts of the different perceptron architecture. For example, multi-layer perceptron. I have planned to discuss mathematically how multi-layer perceptron uses supervised learning. So till then, goodbye. Thank you.